This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my video looking at why I think the Flash movie generally did a better job than the Flash Season 9. And this is something I am honestly disappointed to say. The Flash Season 9 could have been incredible, and even though the Flash movie is something I did really enjoy, and I think still, before it even came out, had a really good potential, I just loved the Flash show so much more and was so disappointed with how disappointing this season was. But as I said, I meant generally because there are a few things I think that the Flash season 9 did better, specifically two episodes and parts of other ones. And the main thing about those parts of other ones is they're mainly parts of the final arc, mainly the parts that focus on Barry and his legacy and everything. But the stuff that focused on the side characters was really weak. But the two episodes that I think were so much better were season 9, episode 9, It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want to, and season 9, episode 10, A New World Part 1. And those were just incredible episodes because the first one was an episode that was just fully dedicated to the Arrowverse and having a final crossover with Arrow. It was really an incredible episode, and there was nearly perfect. And episode 10 was another incredible episode that was a great tribute to season 1 and finally finished up stuff for the death of Nora Allen. And besides that, and a few other things which I'll be discussing momentarily, I think that the Flash movie was doing such a better job than season 9. Now, going into the few other things that it did better, I have to say that Grant Gustin's performance of Barry Allen was far superior to Ezra Miller's. And I'm not just saying this because Ezra Miller is controversial. It's the fact that even though both had experience as Barry Allen before, with Grant Gustin having 8 previous seasons and Miller appearing in both versions of Justice League and having cameos in some other movies, I think that even if we went to the beginning of their careers as the Flash, Grant still did such a better job playing Barry Allen. And honestly, that's also probably because I've watched 9 seasons of his show. But even just considering it and looking at the character on its own, I just like Grant's Barry more. He is a little more serious and is just a better actor, in my opinion. Again, this is probably extremely biased, but on that point, I definitely think that Grant did a lot better. And the second thing is for their big kind of drawn appearance, and that is between Oliver Queen and Michael Keaton's Batman. Don't get me wrong, Michael Keaton's Batman was really cool and was an awesome appearance, but the biggest problem with Keaton's Batman is that he has no real connection to Barry Allen. It was more for the audience. while the appearance of Oliver Queen is very important to Barry Allen, and they have a long history together, and the audience also has a great connection, and through that connection, I think that makes that appearance a lot stronger. And everything with the night that Nora Allen died is a lot better on the show. They do have the fact that this was, for the season, really well built up, and once the movie is released, I probably want to do a video, well, at least on digital platforms and DVD. I want to do a comparison between the night that Nora Allen died in the show and the movie using clips, but for now, I just want to say that season 9 did a lot better, and having Barry's final interaction with his mother was far more emotional in that, and it was done a lot better there. But going to the Flash movie, it just did really everything so much better. The first thing that it did a lot better was the side characters, and for this we have Supergirl and just some of the other characters that managed to appear in it. And I'm going to include Ben Affleck's Batman in this, but I'm not going to be counting Keaton's Batman, since I'm considering that as it's a big draw. And these characters that served as kind of side characters were just a lot better than like 90% of the supporting cast for this season. And even though like I don't even care about Steel as a character, I just kind of see her as a neutral character. I know a lot of other people absolutely hate her. I honestly could care less, but Chester and Allegra were completely unbearable this season and were even worse than previous seasons. It was really awful that they just took so much of the screen time from Barry in his final season, and it was really disappointing. And going to look at other stuff this did better, the overall story was a lot better done, and it was a lot more interesting to experience. And even though the Cobalt Blue storyline was pretty interesting in season 9, it was definitely a little too short, and it did have its problems, mainly with the supporting cast. But the overall story of it was solid enough. But I think that Cobalt Blue needed a lot more time, and they really didn't give him the time, giving him really like 3/4 of an episode to truly be the villain. And if I was to do this season over, which I'm gonna also make a video about, I would definitely give him a lot more time to be the villain. And although I think his defeat was also done a little better, and another small thing I didn't get to mention was his relationship with Iris, but those are at two completely different points in this, with them being married in season 9 and them just kind of being old friends in the movie. If we just look at it, the villains were handled so much better. And comparing the villains that are a little more similar, I'm going to go with Red Death and Dark Flash. And, well, Red Death was completely awful, and the acting was also awful. And even though Dark Flash only had a few minutes of screen time, Dark Flash was still a really interesting antagonist and was just a Barry that was completely broken. And was interesting to see, and well, honestly, just by default is better than Red Death, even though it isn't an extremely amazing antagonist. It's still a lot better than the just completely terrible performance that Red Death gave that was completely ruined by the Batwoman actress who was just way too over the top and crazy acting and just seemed like she belonged on Teen Titans Go. I could definitely see the tragedy in Dark Flesh, and I really just think that honestly, almost what I think is better than the awful performance that was given by Red Death, and just the actress' performance was so bad. I would say she's probably the worst, at least acted antagonist of the entire Flash show. And looking at Zod versus Cobalt Blue, I think that both do around the same job and both around the same level of quality. And I think Zod is probably just a little better because of his villain development before, and you already knowing that he is a fully evil character. While Eddie, we have a lot more experience with him being a good guy, and his turn was just at the end of the season, and we didn't get too much time to see him as a villain. And even though they were both pretty enjoyable, as I said, if Eddie had a little more time, probably be above Zod in this movie. But with Zod just having the better backstory through him being evil and as a villain, I'd just have to put him slightly above Eddie. And looking at the overall story, I think it's better that, well, Barry is a more prominent character in the Flash movie than he is for parts of season 9, because when Barry is the true star of season 9, he is truly incredible. But when most of the side cast takes over the show, it gets really bad. And that's just the main thing that goes down to it. The thing that puts the two seasons in comparison and makes the movie better is just that Barry Allen is the main character of it, and even though it does have its flaws for being a movie, and it does focus on some other characters that it probably doesn't really have to, it still is a Flash story at the center of it, and the Flash is still the main character, while at some points the season 9 becomes a show focusing on his side cast, and most of them, with the exception of Iris and Joe, are either completely awful or really have no interest in it, with Keone being kind of completely unnecessary. And if she was just remaining as Caitlin for the rest of the season, I think that it would have just helped the season a little more. And honestly, that's what I think. Even though I said at the beginning it was just one talking about how the Flash movie was a lot better, I kind of changed it into a comparison. Even though I wanted to be clear up front, this is saying why the Flash movie was better, but I wanted to point out that season 9 wasn't completely awful. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. And also on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.